All right, everybody. We're doing the Psalms now, so I guess I'm gonna have to do Samuel. Um, I want to read Kings at one point, and do some videos on Kings definitely. But like right here, number 6, this says a Psalm of David, right? And I was curious about this, so I looked it up, and it said that these are actually in the ancient texts, and all of these do say a Psalm of David, huh? But not 1 and 2, not 1 and 2. If I were a betting man, I'd say 1 and 2 were written by Samuel. Um, although 3, 4, and 5, I don't know. They just seem whatever. Yeah, I mean there was I mean Samuel could have taught David a lot of wisdom. So by the time he wrote this, David could have been more wise. Um, but I mean, here's the thing about David, King David. Um, I mean, you first have to start out, I think, with the Book of Ruth, and in the Book of Ruth, you have this trial that happens, and in this trial, you go up and you gather 10 random Jews. Okay, I'm guessing it's Jew men. I'd object to that. Because I think you should allow women in. But I'm assuming. The assumption could be wrong, but you grab 10 random Jews, and that's your jury. In other words, there's no judges, right? And we can see this in the story of Moses in the Exodus. He gets out into the desert, and Moses starts judging the people, and he starts getting sick of it because they're all stupid and whiny and pathetic, and all their problems are stupid and whiny and pathetic, and he'd rather go learn about architecture or metallurgy or whatever, and he was or insects and birds, and he'd rather go learning. Um, and so he delegates the decisions to others, and we can see this in the Book of Ruth, right? Where there are no judges. It's like the people are handling their own justice, right? Now, of course, in a system like this, you could have someone who tries to rig the jury, right? Now, like if you're, and all trials are public. They happen in the public square. So if you're walking along and trials happening, you can just walk in and listen. Just perv out. Justice is open. There's no closed doors or hidden information, like in 99% of the justice systems out there. Justice is handled by the people. But of course there's going to be controversy. And when there's controversy, then the rabbis will step in. Right? The rabbis only step in when they have to. And of course, rabbis themselves always fight with each other. So if there's still controversy, then the high priest steps in. Right? And Moses would be the high priest. He's going to have the final decision. And this was, I think, their way of things. And if you look at the period of the judges happened right after Moses. And so these people in the period of the judges were following the laws of Moses most faithfully. Right? And what do we see in the period of the judges? There's no leaders. There's no kings, there's no elected officials, there's no judges. It's like whenever if a crisis happens, then a Jew will step up, and it's the best Jew who steps up. Right? This is a society of merit, where there are no leaders, and the rabbis have a very weak leadership. They're only arbiters, and they're only supposed to step in for controversy, but they're not weak because they're also supposed to inform the conscience and the morals and all that, so that people can make the right decisions. I mean, you have that guy with the hair. I forgot his name. Um, but it's funny. It's like, yeah, all my power's in my hair, right? And he's just joking around. Um, he went into the Philistine area, and he started judging the Philistines, and um, he would judge the wicked Philistines and kill them. And so this guy with the hair would have been a folk hero to the good Philistine men, women, and children, right? Because these good Philistine men, women, and children are going to be suffering under the wicked Philistines, and then he's going to come in, kill off all the wicked Philistines, and they're going to be like, hell yeah for this Jew who did good by us. And we don't see that in Saul, and we'll get to Saul. There's not this hatred of the other tribe there's no nationalism here. It's of the heart, and the good Jews love good men of good heart, no matter what their tribe. And that's what this guy with the hair was doing. And then, of course, he also got justice within his own tribe as well. He was just a badass guy with some strong hair. And so, boom, we come to Kings. We open up with Kings. And what do we see in the opening of Kings? We see Samuel, because Samuel's writing this. And we see Samuel, who's being an asshole, right? Because what's he doing? He's criticizing the former high priest, the former high priest before him. And what is he saying? This former high priest had 2 sons, and the fact that it's his sons is going to confuse the reader, because they're not going to see a lot of the stuff that I just said. They're going to think that this might be a family issue. No, this is law and justice that is going down. And so he's criticizing this former high priest because his 2 sons were going around acting wickedly. They were stealing, they were lying, they were murdering. And this former high priest was doing nothing about it. So that's the criticism that he has of this former high priest. That this former high priest was doing nothing about the wicked Jews. Because the high priest is the final arbiter. And if there's some bad shit going down, then the high priest needs to get involved and start swinging his battle axe around. And so, but that's why I call Samuel an asshole. Because if we look at the entire King's text, Samuel is acting exactly like this former high priest. You have Saul and all these other Jews who are acting greedy, and they're acting violent. And he keeps going up to Saul and saying, hey, stop acting like this. That's not cool, man. It's not cool. But we see Saul doing nothing. Right? So we should just close the Book of Kings, take it out of the canon, and burn it, because this is obviously bullshit going on. Unless Samuel was doing something about it, right? And this is the hidden part of the text, right? Because if Samuel's not doing anything about, because he's now the high priest, and there's all this bad shit going down, and he's gotta lay the law down. And if he's not doing that, then he's a hypocrite for criticizing. He's starting out this book by criticizing this other guy, and yet he's acting the same way, right? And what's really happening in this text is that Samuel is a lot like Abraham here. Again, the Torah is a ninja scroll, because Abraham would go around acting meekly, Abraham would go around allowing other men to fuck his wife. Um, and but it clearly says is that Abraham, if he blesses you, you'll be blessed. In other words, Abraham's going to be doing the blessing. That means Abraham was also doing the curse. The meekness was just an act. Abraham and Samuel are Columbo type figures. The TV show Columbo. You know, these are men that act weak, and they act meek. And that's how Samuel acted throughout the whole of the Kings. He's like, oh, you guys need to follow the Lord. Please follow the Lord, you know. But in that second, I think in one of these Psalms, he's talking about busting in other people's teeth, right? And that's a transformation of Samuel, because Samuel himself admits that he was a gentle man. He was a gentle man at one point, but when he learned the true nature of God, he realized, hey, it's fun to bust in other people's teeth sometimes, because sometimes they deserve it. And so you see this transformation of Samuel, because Samuel, throughout this whole text, is a gangster. And he's setting the Jews up. If you look at the text, and that's why I want to go to read Kings at some point, but if you look at the text, God never sanctifies monarchy. He goes up to Samuel and he's like, hey, Samuel, give them what they want. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Give them what they want. You know, in other words, Samuel is like a Kar-ur type figure, and David is a Ninurta. Right? And so I think the David that we see in this Psalms is probably a much wiser man. And so he's able to write poetry with wisdom. But in his youth, he was clearly an idiot child. Right? But he was brave and loving, and he had justice. He loved justice. But he was this figure of inspiration to all the idiot sheep out there. And Samuel was using David. But he was also using Saul as a magnet to attract all of the bad Jews. Right? Because all of the bad Jews are gonna run towards Samuel. Just like Moses created the golden calf. Right? He says it right there in the text. He says that Uliab is good at making metal animal figures. Right? He made that golden calf as a way to attract all of the bad Jews, so he could, because he had his soldiers ready. Like right after that golden calf incident happened, the violence went down. You're quick or you're dead, as the Torah says. And that sort of violence, if you think about it practically, doesn't just happen. I mean, sometimes it can, but not in this situation. Moses was ready with his soldiers, and he was ready with a list. And all of those on that list that followed the golden calf, he was like, go kill him. Like Moses set them up when he did the golden calf. That's exactly what Samuel did by electing Saul. It was a setup. This Samuel, this gentle man, has turned into a gangster. Right? And so, but he's also this spiritual master. So you can at least see him in these texts. And since 1 and 2 didn't say who the author was, and when I was reading it, it said 1/3 of the Psalms are unknown, right? But then it said 3 was David. I mean, David probably did learn a lot of wisdom throughout the days from Samuel. So I mean, David is in a later part of his life capable of writing this, but this is definitely not written by a younger David. If it was written by David at all, it just could have been written by Samuel or one of Samuel's guys. But but that's why I was interested in who wrote it, because I'm looking at this David stuff, and as far as I know, David is not that smart. All right. But when I was looking up who, because I don't think I'm going to be doing all these psalms. There's like 150 of them. Um, I want to get started on my stories. But the inspiration is torturing me. But when I was looking it up, it said that this psalm right here, Psalm 90, was written by Moses. So I was interested in we'll finish out today by reading this Psalm 90 and seeing what is. Like I'm guessing it was probably written by Samuel, and he just attributed it to Moses for whatever, but maybe not. It could have been. All right. So let's do this. Lord, thou hast been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever thou hadst formed the earth and the world. From everlasting to everlasting thou art God. Thou turnest man back to dust, and sayest, Turn back, O children of men, for 1,000 years in thy sight are but as yesterday when it is past, or as a watch in the night. Thou dost sweep men away, they are like a dream, like grass which is renewed in the morning. In the morning it flourishes and is renewed. In the evening it fades and withers. For we are consumed by thy anger, and by thy wrath we are overwhelmed. Thou hast set our iniquity before thee, our secret sins in the light of thy countenance. For all our days pass away under thy wrath. Our years come to an end like a sigh. The years of our life are 70. Or even by reason of strength 80. Yet their span is but toil and trouble. They are soon gone, and we fly away. Who considers the power of thy anger, and thy wrath according to the fear of thee? So teach us to number our days, that we may get a heart of wisdom. Return, O Lord, how long? Have pity on thy servants. Satisfy us in the morning with thy steadfast love, that we may rejoice and be glad all our days. Make us glad as many days as thou hast afflicted us, and as many years as we have seen evil. Let thy work be manifest to thy servants, and thy glorious power to their children. Let the favor of the Lord our God be upon us, and establish thou the work of our hands upon us. Yea, the work of our hands, establish thou it. All right. I think like this last part is pretty easy. Again, there's this distinction to be made between the Canaanite way of total sacrifice. Your life is total sacrifice, as opposed to the Torah, which talks about more whole life. So yeah, work is a part of your life, but also family, friends. You need time for yourself, and you need to see, because God is angry that we're toiling and troubling. I mean, this is our own fault that it's all happening, because we're not living a whole life. So this is a constant theme I see now going on. Teach us to number our days, that we may get a heart of wisdom, right? Like when we're toiling and troubling, life is just monotony, right? But if we wake up every day and every day is a new day, it's not the same day, right?
And again, the work, yea, the work of our hands establish thou it, right? So when we're toiling and troubling, we're usually working for someone else and making someone else rich, right? So that's why these Torah writers, I think, advocate for a craftsman society, where the work of our hands produces something of value. But let's go to this first part. Lord, thou hast been our dwelling place in all generations. Right? Before the mountains were brought forth, or thou hadst formed the earth and the world. From everlasting to everlasting, thou art God. Right? There's this, like, I was surprised to find out that there's this debate, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody who knows, but apparently there's been this debate amongst Jews on whether or not there's an afterlife, right? Um, Now, I think a couple times in the Torah it criticizes this idea of basing your morality upon um, the afterlife, right? Because that's vanity. Like you want to get into like a high place, right? In the afterlife, like you want to get into a high place here, right? I mean, and I think we see a lot of that down here too, because um, it's about the now down here, right? We should be living for the now. Um, but here in this first part, it says that we were dwelling with God before the world was created. Right. So whoever wrote this psalm does seem to believe that there is an eternal soul. Um, but the fate, it seems, of that eternal soul is predicated on our life here on earth, right? Um, I mean, time is a weird thing. Once you're dead, there is no more time. And so to conceive to conceive of immortality is to be completely outside of time. Um, and so in some ways we all have a fate, and yet in other ways that fate is weirdly determined by this sacred now.